The Department of Basic Education has started training teachers and subject advisors in preparation for the introduction of CAPS for technical schools in 2016.
Teachers have been brought here to be reskilled because of the introduction of our technical subject specialization, namely civil technology that comprises of the following components: construction specialization, woodworking specialization, civil services or plumbing specialization. The other component of specialization is mechanical technology that is divided into fitting and machining, welding, and automotive. The other specialization is electrical technology, which is divided into power systems specialization, electronics specialization, and digital specialization. The introduction of these subjects, because of their 30% theory and 70% practical, 70%, 30% in all, our teachers had to be reskilled, come to a skills training center to be trained by qualified and accredited artisans. And then through that, we've got even enabling subjects that have been introduced: technical mathematics and technical sciences. All of these subjects, they have what we call a practical assessment task. By practical assessment task, we mean they are PET or they are pure practicals in terms of doing what the artisans are doing in the workplace. So this place, PMI, is an institution that trains artisan technicians and engineers. So the objective of this training was to expose our teachers and subject advisors, teachers from GET band, teachers from FET band, to be exposed in a really industrial world to do their practicals.
Thank you very much. I think the other reason why we have drawn in the GET, we want to create a strong alignment between the subject that Mr. Mudiba has spoken to already. The content that he has made mention of: civil technology with its own specialization, electrical technology with its own specialization, and mechanical technology with its own specialization, has got a bearing in respect to what is happening in the GET. In the GET, you've got what we call systems and control. Within the systems and control, you've got mechanical systems, you've got electrical systems, you've got electronics, and then you've got pneumatics and hydraulics. All those fit into what Mr. Mudiba has spoken to. We've got also in the civil side, civil technology. In the senior phase, grade 7 to 9, we've got what we call structures. Some of the elements within the structures are elements that forms the foundation for civil technology, which is happening in the FET. The other reason why we've drawn the GET in is that FET has got an advantage. All the subject advisors and most of the teachers in the FET have got a technical background. But when you look in the GET, most of the GET subject advisors and teachers do not have that technical background. This training provides an opportunity for both the FET and GET. FET to understand what is happening in the GET. In the GET to understand what is happening in the FET, so that the GET component can introduce gradually the FET component, the grade 10 component, without necessarily assessing it, but using it as an enrichment to prepare learners for the office. Now we want this kind of synergy, which is coming together very, very strongly. Mr. Mudiba comes up here with a very strong background knowledge because he's an engineer by profession. So all those areas that we have spoken to are the areas of his competency, and he brings a vast amount of knowledge into this process, which I think in the system we do not have in the past. Now this synergy is coming up very, very strongly, and we would want really to appreciate the opportunity that the political head, the minister, the DM, and the senior managers have provided to us to work together, and we really want to appreciate that kind of support that TBE is bringing, and thank you very much.
In line with global trends led by countries such as Denmark and Germany, the department's drive towards embracing vocational education includes the training of teachers. This move is aimed at recapitalizing technical schools and will ensure the supply of resources in schools to enhance the skills of both teachers and learners in technology subjects, in line with the skills and requirements needed to service today's growing technological and technical industries.
So they get taught all of those safety things about it.
This is part of Jabu's GET. When they do the stays on a timer, like balance, then they're doing this as part of structures.
Okay, so they've actually trained us.
Sure, that's
So they practice on the ropes, okay, because obviously it's hell of expensive.
Yeah.
So when they do their assessments, they do it on the steel, but all the practicing is done on the rope.
No, perfect.
So where is the trade to this?
I turned it off. Would this be where the joint is?
The training focused on construction, woodworking, civil services, welding, fitting, machination, and automotive.
Equipment, you get like a vernier caliper like that one, which is a digital one. Take your measurement and then you do your measurement on your digital scale. Yeah, on the screen.
Inside here. We can't learn to measure and file and that type of stuff. We're not going to know. So this is the first 2 weeks that they spend learning how to measure.
How are you making you nervous?
So he's got to make this himself. And it's one of their tools that they will use in their trade as well. So they're making their own tools.
Brilliant. Enjoying it?
No, I'm really enjoying it. I love it.
The Deputy Minister of Basic Education, Mr. Enver Surty, visited the training center to observe how the training was proceeding. The visit was an opportunity for the Deputy Minister to personally observe the work being done to ensure that teachers were up to speed with the curriculum changes before they are introduced in 2016.
What can you do when you take it out? What do you check up in the bearing itself?
I have to check out the spaces here,
Yes.
the rust on the bearing, and then all the lock nut here.
So if they say the bearing has a bearing knock, what does that mean?
It's a lock nut. This one's a lock nut.
Oh, this is a lock nut.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then lock washer.
All right.
And we have some spherical roller bearing here.
Yes. Okay. So you could put it together if something wrong with it. You'd be able to replace the damaged part of the bearing itself.
Yeah.
It's just basically an electrical lockout just to show if you isolate and lock out the electrical procedures, what are the other pieces you need to do. So it's just basic hand skills to see that you'll be able to measure and mark out.
Okay. So when they're working on site and they've a shutdown, there've been an electrician, a fitter, boiler maker, welder, each of them's got to lock out the electrical plugs. We make them make their own lockout. So when they actually go onto site, they will take this with them. So and they will then lock out and they put a lock on it, and no one can remove that until he comes and removes it himself. Otherwise they start a machine and somebody gets killed.
So this is your own fabrication, your own.
Yeah, you basically start on it.
Wow. I'm very proud. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Addressing participants, Deputy Minister Surty emphasized the importance of skills development indicating that the current administration has embarked on a program to recapitalize and reinvigorate technical schools.
That is the pattern. These two patterns form
And the other thing, this pipe, it was a flat sheet, it's a roll. And this one,
That's why integrators is saying design and make. This is part of the design. And then they go into
So your measurement will determine whether you can use it or whether you're going to replace the part.
Especially with the plastics, we check whether the plastic will fit.
Oh, all right. And if it won't fit, what are you going to do about it?
We can take it to the engineers to
You take it to the engineer. You wouldn't be able to do that yourself.
with enough machinery. Can do it.
So now the exhaust valve is starting to close. A little bit more. And watch this one now.
Steven?
Welkom, welkom.
Oorlog.
Right, lock.
Een beetje te stijf? Ja, maar hij zit te snel. Maar kom.
Welkom, welkom. Welkom.
Draai die speler dan.
Draai die speler.
Hier is het niet werkt niet, dan zie je dat die man zo fout is.
The training of subject advisors and teachers at the skills training centers has the potential to influence the approach of teaching and learning of technical subjects, as there is a need for interfacing the industrial approach with that of the basic education system for the improvement of outcomes and outputs. The focus on skills development is partially in response to the concerns raised in the National Development Plan around the lack of effectiveness of the further education and training band with regards to the quality of learner outputs and the skills requirements needed by
So
industry.
that they can understand conceptually how the
They use them to build circuits like switching lamps on off, contactors on off, starting and stopping motors and for the most different phase.
jou boilers gooi, dan jy daai ene vir stop start.
My name is Prudence Duma. I'm from Emang Comprehensive School in Kimberley, Northern Cape. I'm here for a training of CAPS 2, which is for grade 10. Yeah, we're learning to do a whole lot of things. Wiring the house, we do the motors, but we haven't started on motors yet, but there's a whole lot of things that you can do around here. At the moment, we're wiring a two-way switch. We wired a single switch, two-way switch. We're now going to wire an intermediate switch. That is exactly what I did at the moment. But I'm still to do a whole lot more because we still have got days to go.
Hello, I'm Lerato Mokolo-Joani. I'm from KP Toto Technical and Commercial in Kuruman. Yeah, actually we are here for CAPS 2, which is more basically on practicals than theory. We used to do a lot of theories, but now we have to ensure that our learners are able to be entrepreneurs. So we have been taken here for a workshop so that at the end of the day, we reduce the unemployment, which is the problem to our country.
My name is Sipo Mpotle and from Welkom High School here in Welkom. Here it is the integration of GET and FET. And then what we are dealing with here is electricity. And the importance of this integration is that when learners go to FET phase, they must already be conversant with what is it that they are going to encounter when they go to grade 10, grade 11 and grade 12. It's just a build up and a linking because there used to be sort of a gap between GET and FET. So the importance of us attending this workshop is that even to an educator, it empowers you with the skills that are necessary. When you go in class, you know what is it that is expected of a learner when he or she completes his GET phase, and then what skills are necessary for that particular learner when he or she goes to FET phase.
What we were busy doing was connecting switches. But how did we start off? We started off by connecting one switch to one bulb and seeing how the operation works. And then secondly,
you can place, maybe you can have one bulb but have two switches. So you can either place the other switch on the other side and the other one, but those two switches it is possible to control one bulb with the two switches.
Yes, and we'll demonstrate to you how it works. Would you please switch on? Yes, so that we show them how to one bulb operate with one switch.
How does
two switches with one bulb?
Yes.
You switch on.
It's on.
Switch on. Then you switch off on the other side.
Here, or you can just switch the light or the bulb on here and you can switch it off.
Basically, if we want to control the level at a certain point, so we've got our level transmitter sending the signal to tell our controller what point it's at and what we need to be at. And then that will send the signal to your valve in order to either lift your level or decrease your level. So you have your control point and different variables that come into it, so sending the electrical signal in order for your valve and your to change in order to reach your control point.
Just change the set point perhaps here. So he wants a different level or the operator in the car.
So also the volume of water or whatever else or liquid is controlled by that variable. So you've got volume, mass of the liquid, you've got your heat, you've got your pressure, all those elements are taken into account in terms of the control.
What they've done since we started is principles of electricity and as well as testing of basic components. So I think what they're doing now is the second circuit of electronics where they see how the value of the capacitor plays a role in charging and discharging the multimeter. So they're varying the theory that is there and testing it against the practicals to make sure that
so there's a good sense of what
to make sure that what is in theory it's really the truth now when they do it.
They do the planning first on paper. And they thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the planning that they do on paper, which is according to this board. And now they are going to assemble this component according to this board.
Basically, if you've got your remote control or something like that, then you've got to solder the right parts. You've got to look at the digits and how it influences.
But this is still the basics.
No, you're going to get to that then.
Yeah, and all the educators who are taking part here will live with a fully equipped electronics toolbox. So all the instruments that he needs for grade 10 up to grade 12.
And also
those glasses are meant for the soldering, isn't it?
Yeah, they're meant for the soldering, to protect our eyes also. Yes.
To protect my eyes.
Yes.
Thank you, Program Director, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Fourie, representatives of PMI, my colleagues, the educators. It's so good to see you in uniform. I tried to emulate, they didn't have a blue one, so I had to wear a white one, but I don't know, it's because of the authority that I have. But it's quite incredible to have been here, and I really want to thank PMI for hosting us. I think it's an extraordinary facility, but what is very, very remarkable about this experience is that there are so many women who are part of this team, and I say let's put our hands together for our women. So the electronic field, the plumbing field, the civil field, and I say wow, our women are really moving upwards, and that's really, really great. Now there are many reasons why we should celebrate what is happening here today. I had the benefit of representing our country not very long ago in Incheon, in South Korea, where 120 ministers of education and 1,500 delegates from all parts of the world had gathered. And the reason for them gathering was to look at the future in terms of sustainable development. And the future was between 2015 and 2030, which are going to be the priority areas within which governments or with which governments should work, and what should they pay particular attention to for sustainable development and growth. And we assembled there under the banner of inclusive and equitable quality education for lifelong learning. Now, important is the issues of equity and inclusivity, so that it should involve and include everybody. Now, that is why when I say I recognize the enormous contribution of our women, it means that previously, particularly in intermediate and artisanal areas, they had been excluded. It was a male-dominated aspect. And secondly, let's be honest about it, because of the legacy of the past, it was a white male experience. And what we see today is really a combination of color and gender, which really makes it extremely interesting for us. And we can indeed celebrate our diversity. But what they also emphasize on in that discourse and discussion that we had there was the importance of technical and vocational skills. Because previously the agenda for governments and UNESCO itself was particularly focused on basic education in its academic sense. And they paid too little attention to the technical, vocational, and intermediate skills. And what they had conveyed to us there is really telling us that they endorse what we had decided to do some time ago. To emphasize as a Ministry of Education the importance of skills development, that it's not only about academic excellence, not only about professionals, but their vocations and occupations that we should look to. And it's for this reason that this becomes an important event. Under normal circumstances, you would be addressed today, not by the Deputy Minister for Basic Education, but by the Minister or the Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training, given the fact that your TVETs are under the jurisdiction of Higher Education and Training. But we do know that in the past we had many technical schools. So this morning, before arriving here, we had the benefit of visiting Word School Welkom, Technische School, Technical High School of Welkom, where woodwork was being offered. And indeed, again, we had the benefit of seeing women over there. And we shared with them the experience that I come from a very small town. It's now a city. At that time, it was as small as Welkom is. And I had to leave the town because of the apartheid policies of the past and go to Johannesburg because there was a high school there. And I went to Lenasia High School. And Lenasia High School was a school that was constructed purely out of asbestos. So you had rows and rows of asbestos buildings. The school enrollment was more than 1,200. But what was interesting about it, what my memory, what's exciting about the memories of that particular school was the fact that it had a woodwork and metalwork center and it had a library. The library was certainly something that basically assisted me in developing and growing as I continued to learn and read, and as I'm learning today as well. But the woodwork and the metalwork center taught me the skills, how to use my hand and how to coordinate my brain with my hand. And I think it's important. And what you're doing basically is telling us that in terms of our educational experience, it's not purely academic, that there's a technical side to education, which is critical and necessary. And the technical side is also scientific because it deals with weights, it deals with measurements, it deals with pressure. So whether we went to the electrical stream or the mechanical stream or the civil stream, levels were important, mass, weight was important, pressure was important. So those instruments of science, those instruments and the capacity to be mathematically inclined were imminently embedded in all the activities that took place there. So when you look at the Boilermakers and the welders over there, you have a flat sheet, you've got to have circular forms out there, but you start off with drawings, designs, and measurements. So it becomes, when people look at technical skills, they often forget the scientific and the mathematical element of it. And therefore, I always say that people who are technically sound are generally academically very capable and competent, because if you can master technical elements in your life, you can do about anything else. So you indeed are cadres and activists for a radical transformation in our schools. Now the history of this experience is that in 2009, you probably remember, or you probably recognize and know those of you from the Northern Cape who know Naledi Pandor because of the square kilometer array. And she was the Minister of Education at the time, and I was a deputy. I'm probably the longest serving deputy Minister of Education at the time. I don't think anybody has served as long as I did. I had a small stint as the Minister of Justice, but education has been my forte. But what we had decided at that time, given the reality of technical schools, is that we have to do something about it. We had to enhance well, a lot of the equipment was obsolete and antiquated. Technical schools were being marginalized, they were on the periphery. People regarded as less important in terms of the activities of learning and teaching, and we decided we should have a national task team, a reference team to basically look at it, and their recommendation was that we should recapitalize our technical schools, we should reintroduce and reinvigorate technical learning in our schools. Now, at much the same time, something else happened. You had your TVETs, which were your FET colleges of yesteryear. They are now called TVET, Technical Vocational Education Training Colleges, which have grown exponentially. Now, we did not want to compete with the TVETs, but we wanted to provide opportunities and resources within our schools that had technical capacity. And therefore, a conversation has indeed taken place and continues with the Department of Higher Education and Training to say that our technical schools are not juxtaposed as competitors with or against TVETs, but they complement each other. And indeed, together we are looking at another level, beyond level 4, that is your matric, or your National Senior Certificate Vocational, that would be level 5. So if you exit your schools, you could go to a TVET where you could do level 5 and then go to university and almost become an entrepreneur or go into to different streams and opportunities that present themselves. So that conversation is alive and well. There's another reason why this is important here, because we also celebrate 60 years of the adoption of our Freedom Charter. And people are not really, they say Freedom Charter was adopted, but how was it adopted? It involved more than 50,000 people who consulted with the nation, and they decided this is the kind of Freedom Charter that we want to. So when it speaks about education, it says that the doors of learning and culture must be open to everybody. And everybody means everybody. It means all blacks, all whites. And what we've been doing consistently in education is ensuring that we provide opportunities to black and white alike, that we look at the elements of equity, and to say, how can we now, what must we do better to ensure that those who have been denied access and opportunity in the past are now able to acquire access, but not only access, but quality access to education. And this is what today's event, this is why it makes it so exciting. It makes it exciting because the amenities are excellent. I think you agree. Do you agree with that? Yes. Would you agree that the teachers or the lecturers that are here are experienced, and you can see the experience in the faces? Some of them are so old that they should be retired, but they are still serving. But it's the institutional knowledge that they carry that makes them such powerful lecturers. So a combination of that human resource capacity and the amenities makes this a very, very powerful institution where we could collaborate. So the second celebration is really to say that as we celebrate 60 years of the adoption of the Freedom Charter, particularly given our history, we should celebrate this opportunity and say, what do we do better to ensure that we produce skilled, quality, intermediate artisans and for our country, which desperately needs those skills. You probably are aware as educators that we import, even currently, welders. So we go to Adcorp, and if you look at what's happening in our railway systems, welders are being imported to do things that we could do locally. And given the fact that we're also talking about civil engineering, we should grow our own timber, I think. And it's important that we do that. So we have these 3 streams, and I think Mr. Mweli has spoken to you about the 3 streams. I'm not going to repeat it. But what has emerged quite interestingly is another element, and that is collaboration with the private sector. For the first time, we have a National Education Collaboration Trust, where the bigger companies, in fact, most of the big companies in the country have collaborated with the Department of Education to ensure that it's able to enhance and promote education as we should. So to give you an example, you might have heard of Sizwen Tosana, who was the chairperson of First National Bank. In a conversation, we indicated to him that we've already prepared the material for technical science and technical mathematics. But you know, it's something new. We want to make it a reality by next year to introduce it in our schools. But the resources of provinces have already been spent on books. Would they be so kind as to fund our grade 10s? And he says, yeah, come and collect the check. And I can assure you we would have the same kind of collaboration and cooperation from the private sector in relation to other needs that we have. Because technical education is very expensive. You talk about steel, you talk about wood, you talk about glue, you talk about wires, you talk about equipment. And I'm so glad that you're all going back with your toolkits, that you don't have to go and buy that. So thank you very much to our coordinators here for ensuring that not only do you have exposure to training, but you also have a toolkit that you can go back with. And I imagine the artifacts that you're going to take back with you are going to be mounted in a very special place to remind you of this wonderful experience. So what we're sharing with you is the reality that globally the trends are towards the development of strong quality intermediate artisanal skills. Secondly, that if we celebrate and are truly committed to our education, that we've got to look at the issues of equity and to say, what do we do better to provide better opportunities, particularly for the black child? When I talk about black, I'm talking about the African Indian and the colored child, the Africans in particular, who have previously been denied that access. And thirdly, to say that, to recognize that there has to be a relationship between what we do in school and how we are able to cultivate the skills and nurture the skills that the economy desperately requires to put it on another trajectory. And that's what the National Development Plan says. It says that please develop swiftly and rapidly your academic and your technical and vocational skills as a matter of urgency. So incredibly, what many thought was going to be just a dream has become a reality. Next year, we have vocational education. The year thereafter, we have occupational education. So we're going to diversify and create better opportunities and access. This would mean that education, basic education, we have to work very, very closely with institutions such as yours, with higher education and training, and importantly with the private sector. I think one of the unfortunate realities in South Africa is that the private sector has not embraced our institutions of learning as the developed countries have, and even the developing countries. If you go to Brazil, you will find that the technological institutions and the vocational institutions have wonderful, wonderful, extraordinary support in terms of human resource capacity and finance from the private sector. Go to Germany, it's the same reality. Go to Ireland, it's the same reality. In South Africa, somehow, there is a distance between the private sector and our formal education government institutions. Yet, they tend to forget that 95% of our learner population, which is about 13 million children, go to public schools, not to private schools, to public schools. So they have a particular responsibility in ensuring that they provide support and resources, because those very skills are the skills that are going to make a difference in the business environment. So this is a wonderful opportunity. You are going to be the front runners, the activists, the radical activists for change in the institutions of learning in basic education. We are revitalizing, reorganizing, recreating an environment for our learners that's going to provide them with a better opportunity for the future. And I think we can be proud in South Africa, because I think we have belief that we can work together. And I think we've overcome many hurdles of division in the past. We are quite proud of our multilingual nature, character as a country, as a multiracial, multi-religious, multicultural, and it's good to be so diverse, provided that we can be united in terms of what we do. So this is a wonderful opportunity. Obviously, I am indebted to PMI for making this available. They do so at a cost, we recognize that, but I think in terms of our conversation with Mr. Robinson, I've told him that foremost and central to our task is to ensure that we develop appropriate capacity and skills amongst our educators, because they require that practical exposure in a well-resourced environment. But secondly, to create opportunities for our learners, particularly during the vacations, who are doing technical subjects, to say to them, listen, let's go and visit this place where I've learned so many things. And when they come here, not to repeat what they've learned at school, but to say, would you like to try something a little more challenging and create opportunities for innovation amongst our learners in institutions such as this? Mr. Robinson and Mr. Fourie seem to be very, very keen to do that on our behalf. So you would have access to an institution, it would have to be organized in a rational way. But we can provide incentives then to our learners. So this is exciting because what we're producing out here is digitized. So your curriculum content, your guidelines is digitized. You will be able to access it, download it, and it belongs to the Department of Basic Education. We will be able to review, revise, and improve on it. And as educators and as practitioners in our schools, and many of you have huge experience, please, and it's an urgent and sincere appeal, please come to us, call us a announced, and say, you've got this in your curriculum content. I think it could be done better if we change it in this way. We are open to these suggestions because it's something that we have to build together. And therefore, you are not only educators, but you are partners in a wonderful initiative that is, in my opinion, going to make a huge difference in this country. So it's about understanding the future trends in the world. It's about celebrating our democracy and the opportunity that comes through the adoption of the Freedom Charter and our Constitution, of course, 21 years of democracy. It's about the collaboration that we've been able to achieve, and it's about accepting that we are quite unique and distinctive as a nation, that we have the ability to make the change even where others doubt that we can make the change. So I say thank you very, very much to all of you for making yourselves available, for becoming these radical activists for change, and indeed I do believe that you are going to make a difference in your institution. So please enjoy and continue to enjoy what you are doing, and thank you again for making yourselves available. I think it's important, but what we're seeing here is what we've seen in Gauteng, what we've seen in KwaZulu-Natal, and we have two provinces that have to still, they're not excluding themselves, but that we still have to cover, in which case we would have covered all 9 provinces, and that is exciting news. And the makeup of all the delegations, even in Gauteng, has been much as what I see out here. Black and white, women and men, and that means that we are an inclusive, integrated society that's looking forward to change. So Kiale Bofa, thank you very, very much. Danki, and I wish you well. And to the organized, to the hosts, as well as our department. Now, these gentlemen that are out here, you know, and they work extremely hard. You must say thank you to them, and maybe put your hands together for them, because I think you come here, listen to the voice of the minister or the deputy minister, but you tend to forget the officials that drive it. So it's Mr. Mueli who's there, Mr. Tabani who's there. We've got Mr. Poza, we've got Jabu there. They work extremely hard to make this a reality. And they say to us that, you know, we might not be perfect in what we're doing, but we think qualitatively we are getting to a space where we think everybody is going to be comfortable. We are comfortable, and it does appear that our educators are comfortable. But if they are erring in what they are doing, please, as a belief, come to us and tell us, listen, you know, you could do it better, because we are all learning together. Thank you very much for your attention.